next.
Welcome to the Old-Fashioned Three. They've been around basketball from the Big Dipper to the Greek Freak, from Russell Celtics to Curry's Warriors, from Peach Baskets to Paolo Banchero. Here are Whitey Gleason, Phantom, and Jerry Reynolds.
Yes, that was that cat, all right.
Hey, you enjoying the holiday season? Isn't it a great time of year, Jer, to be a basketball fan here in Sacramento? You in a great mood today like I am?
Yeah, actually,
Yeah,
I am.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not like you necessarily, but I
Yeah,
am in a good
yeah,
mood. Yeah,
sure.
I don't know. You seem a little bit over the
Yeah,
top.
I'm a little worried about that.
Yeah, I was gonna
and
say,
nobody's
well,
in that good of a mood.
You know who's not
Yeah.
in a good mood today? Somebody's upset about something.
Oh.
Well, yeah. Oh, the new trophies, the new awards. Come on, I wake up to this thing. All of a sudden, there's like 7 new awards or something under new people.
They're not all new awards.
Or they're renamed awards.
Yeah.
And redesigned awards, too, I guess. There's the Michael Jordan one for the MVP. Is
Okay, so
him
that's not a
going
new
like
award.
this.
MVP has been around a
No,
long
but
time.
it's Michael Jordan. And again, what's the first thing when they say, well, we're going to name it after Michael Jordan? And everybody says, well, that's a great idea. He won 5 of them, right? Well, Kareem won 6. So why don't we name it after Kareem? Why can't we do that? That's all I care about.
Wow.
Kareem
That's
gets,
what you're mad about?
yeah, Jerry West gets an award. This guy gets an award. That guy gets an award. Kareem gets no awards. He's got 6 MVPs. He should be the MVP. He's the
Yeah.
guy with the most. So that's where I go.
Me personally, and
Yeah.
I love Kareem, but we have him up here somewhere. Yeah,
yeah,
right
he's
there.
right there sitting there going, hey, buddy, how about my award?
Jer, I don't know about you. I don't have an issue with the MVP award being named for Michael Jordan. I'm okay with it.
I'm
fine.
okay with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying find a spot for my guy.
Well,
find a different award.
And I agree with that, too.
Give him-
I mean,
yeah.
Kareem is probably the greatest player to be sort of forgotten that I've ever seen. Especially
He's underrated.
He still,
Yeah.
he still has this all-time scoring
still
record.
does.
Well,
Yes,
let me
he
check.
does.
He's
For
still
now,
the,
yeah.
and
For
he's
now,
still the
yeah.
greatest college player to ever play.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few things there.
Yes, yes. As I say, yeah.
So
I'm just saying, just give the guy his due. Give him an award.
All
okay?
right.
That's all
We
I'm
can't
saying.
give him the Clutch Player Award. That is a new award. That's going to be named for Jerry West. I don't know how they're going to figure that out.
That's
he's already the logo. My God.
I know. I know.
Yeah, and again. So how are you going to vote on that? What do you say? Oh, I think this guy's pretty clutch. He made a
Maybe
couple
they
of
do
game
some
winners.
analytics on it in the final
good.
5 minutes with the game.
Excellent.
I don't know. Rookie of the Year award is going to be named after Wilt, which I'm okay with.
Yeah,
He had a,
okay
he had a
with
good
that.
rookie.
Yeah.
He had a good rookie
He
year.
was probably the greatest rookie
He
of
had a
all
good
time.
rookie year, the 38 and 25, something like that.
Yeah.
Defensive Player of the Year award is going to be named for Akeem Olajuwon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Bill Russell's already got an award, right? He's
Yeah.
the finals
MVP.
Yeah.
Sixth Man of the Year now will be the John Havlicek Trophy.
Yeah, well, that seems
Can't
fair.
really complain about
And
that.
the Most Improved Player award will now be, for some reason, named after George Mikan. I don't understand that at all. He averaged like 28 points a game his first year. George Mikan.
He was always taller than everybody. He didn't. What did he get? Most tallest award.
Yeah, some of these make sense. That to me, nothing against the great George Mikan, commissioner of the ABA, but I don't see why Most Improved Player should be named after him.
I don't either. but he deserves something.
He does. He does.
Again, Kareem could have been.
Yeah.
could have
Speaking
been that.
of Kareem, have you heard the story about the ABA and how they almost got then Lou Alcindor and how Mikan, the commissioner of the ABA, he botched it?
He botched it.
Apparently,
No, I
yeah.
didn't.
Okay, so the Bucks had the NBA rights
Right.
after winning the coin flip with the Suns, right? And they got
Yeah, and the
Neil
Suns
They
Walker.
got Neil
Suns
Walker.
got
Yeah.
Neil Walk.
Yeah, and the Nets, the ABA is like, the Nets got your rights. So Kareem and his people, they went to both the Bucks, the NBA, and the Nets. The ABA said, give us your best offer. We're not going to haggle.
Yeah,
We're not
one
gonna-
offer.
Yeah, give us your best offer, and we'll, take the best offer. So George Mikan lowballs him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he goes, Come on.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Who's going to give this guy money?
It
Come
turns
on.
out it looked like Alcindor really did want to play in New York, but the ABA lowballed him. He said, "Okay, sorry, we're going to the NBA." So the owners of the ABA were not happy with George Mikan at that time.
George did not get an award for that. He did not get a negotiation award.
Well, that may be how he got the most improved because after that,
later
that blunder, that he maybe made strides in the commissioner status.
Because he got Julius somehow. He figured out how to get
there you
Julius.
go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, good improvement, George. Way to
got-
go. Hey,
he
you got
got-
George Gervin. And,
Yeah,
you
Gervin
got
and David Thompson.
Oh, hey, George,
Dan-
you're doing a fantastic job.
Dan
yeah.
Issel,
Yeah. Oh,
Artis
my God,
Gilmore.
Gilmore.
Yeah, come on, he is.
Yeah,
improved.
I know. Hey, get off
Okay.
George Mikan's case, man.
Yeah,
you know how many rebounds a game George Mikan averaged as a rookie?
I know exactly.
1.7.
Tell him, Jerry.
We don't know because he didn't keep the stats fed.
Any stats or rebounds?
Well, they had like scoring, but rebounds like.
So how does he most improve? Well, he went from 0 nothingness to 17.
Well, he didn't
Well,
have
that's pretty
nothing.
good.
They just
Yeah.
didn't bother to keep track.
Well, they didn't
Well-
care. What did they
Well,
care? Just
no, they
points?
cared, but see, in those days they probably had one statistician per game.
How many points did you
And,
get?
it's
right?
probably
Yeah.
Fat Joe off the street.
He's probably doing it for free, right?
Yeah,
It's like, yeah,
probably
yeah.
$5
No,
a
Fat
game.
Joe-
and
Fat
you're
Joe's not doing it for
and
free.
you're
He's
keeping stats as best you can.
Yeah.
and
I don't have time for all that.
He's looking up and
Rebounds.
down trying to.
Yeah.
Who got, was that number 17? I couldn't tell. Fat Joe did a great job.
I see your point. I understand now when you see some of these guys that have awards.
George
named after
Mikan's
them.
gone to war and Kareem's over there going,
Kareem, all right.
You know,
Yeah.
Well,
See,
he
that-
probably doesn't care.
The thing I like about that, though, you could go back if you played in those days.
Oh, man.
You could say, "Oh, I led the league in block shots, or I
Hey,
led the league in rebounding."
Triple doubles. I'm the triple double king.
Yeah, I had triple-double every night.
I dominated.
Well, you could never. I mean, people wouldn't believe you, but they couldn't prove you wrong. See?
There's a story going around. I don't know what you would say.
Going
What
around
circles
where?
is going around that you may have been involved in inflated rebound numbers for a prospect at some point in your career.
Jerry Reynolds?
Yeah.
I lied.
My broadcast partner? Are you kidding me?
What?
You're a colleague.
I lied. Yeah, I was, coaching.
You took liberties. That's okay.
I took liberties.
That's
I
not
was,
what he said. He lied.
I was trying to help our program get attention. So,
Okay.
Because you're like a salesman. A coach is like a salesman
Yeah,
for his program.
it was
yeah.
at West Georgia, and
Yeah.
I hadn't had
Like
a
a
lot of
used car
success. and
salesman, it
we were
sounds
winning
like.
some games, but we weren't getting a lot of, and rightly so. We weren't contenders or anything, but we were a lot better than ever been, and had a guy named Charlie Hamilton, as it were, about 6'6" center.
Oh, okay.
And
Charlie, yeah, Chuck.
So, he's a good rebounder. So I said, well, we'll just make him the nation's best. And
And nobody could dispute you.
well, they could when we went on the road.
He never got a rebound.
They had a, he could average 20 rebounds at home and 9 on the road. There was a point where people started saying, wait a minute, is this guy really?
His name was higher up on the scouting
It's
report.
Charlie.
That's all. Right?
Yeah.
Charles Hamilton. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
way to go.
So anyway, but yeah, I probably fudged a little bit there.
Did you get
I-
the attention you wanted? I mean, did it work?
It did for a while,
Yeah.
yeah. Until
He played it.
Well, we made I think the downside was, and it was really an upside, but a downside because we made the national tournament, which I didn't
Fantastic.
think we would that year.
Because
I
of
was
his
kinda-
rebounding prowess?
Well, he was good. He was good at it. He just wasn't quite.
He wasn't 20.
But
again.
anyway, time we got to the national tournament, people were expecting to see a 20 rebound guy, and of course they had more than one. Me doing the stats.
Okay.
So
Charles didn't have a great tournament.
there
Yeah,
was questions raised at that time,
Okay,
but,
but you made
but
it
there
to-
were no. Hey, they couldn't bring any evidence.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, 9 rebounds ain't bad, but we thought this guy was
this
like
guy-
a
I thought
rebounding
this guy's
machine.
18, 19 a game. Come
Yeah,
on.
there were actually some pro scouts come. They were because in the NIA tournament that
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
They come
yeah.
and scout the tournament.
Yeah.
because I, talked to a couple of them. Oh yeah, this guy, man, we'll take a look at
Well,
him. And
a
it's like,
6'6" guy pulling down 20.
You know,
that's impressive. This guy must jump out of the gym.
yeah, well, they thought he, hey, man, this could be the next Bill Bridges or something. And,
Sure.
And I,
Oh yeah,
I
everybody wants
said,
that.
well,
yeah.
maybe Wooden Bridges, but not Bill.
Now,
He's
you
burning
and-
bridges. Yeah.
There's also, and Jerry shared some of this with me recently. you also may have, in some ways,
What is up with was this your criminal past today?
embellished the statistics of Clarence Foots Walker.
He's a heck of a player.
Yeah,
Heck
played
of a
in the
player.
NBA. Yeah. And
Well,
you coached it. You recruited him at what?
he
Two
didn't get
schools?
20
Twice.
rebounds
I
a game.
recruited him 2 places.
Yeah.
Vincennes Junior College and the University Junior College, and then West Georgia. I took him to West Georgia with me. And but anyway, there was a story when I was recruiting him out of Southampton, Long Island, which I didn't have to. I probably didn't have to do this. I mean,
Okay, all right. Well,
he was.
hindsight, sure.
You know, I mean, he lost. I think in 3 years in high school, he lost 1 game. You know.
Yeah. So he was already pretty good.
That's true, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
you know,
so
he's
that's true.
kind of a winner. You know,
Yeah.
like I always say, you know, he lost a couple in Vincennes and 3 or 4 at West Georgia. So he kind of. But anyway, I just thought it'd make a good story because Carl Yastrzemski was from the biggest hero from that area.
Okay, sure.
Now,
yes, yeah.
It so happened that Carl had been a great basketball player too, which doesn't surprise anybody, being a great baseball
So far,
player.
so good.
Yeah, you're on.
And he'd held all the
Hall of Famer
records
and
at,
everything.
at Bridgehampton High School, where Footsack played at Southampton.
Okay.
So I just thought it'd make a better story if I said, you know, Clarence Foots Walker broke all of Carl Yastrzemski's records at Southampton.
And that was an invention by you.
Well, it was
It-
they
it-
went to 2 different schools.
It
But-
was.
so
I
he
mean, now
didn't-
here's the way I looked at it. Let me explain it.
So he went.
If I just assumed, I mean, and I think fairly so, had Carl played at Southampton, Foots would have broke all of his records.
Instead of Bridgehampton.
But he
Yeah.
didn't play at
No, he didn't.
Bridgerton or wherever you're
No,
saying.
he played at
Bridgehampton,
Bridgehampton.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Foots played at Southampton, but they were like 6 to 8
well, they're
miles
Hamptons.
apart.
Yeah,
They're
oh, yeah,
Hamptons.
they're Hamptons, sure.
Now that became part of the Foots Walker lore.
Well, you could
right?
find you could find it in the Cleveland Cavaliers media guide.
Then he broke Gaz's records
Yeah, they broke Gaz's records
at a different school.
Yeah.
Man, your checkered past is
And
coming
it-
to the surface
it-
today.
No
it
harm,
actu-
no foul. No harm,
well,
no foul.
I sort of. I hope Gaz never saw
Well,
that.
I mean, it wasn't a lie in the sense that he broke all of Yastrzemski's record at Southampton because Carl had
Didn't
none
have
at
any.
So he
Southampton.
didn't have any. So
He
he didn't
didn't have
really
any.
break them because they were
Technically true,
non-existent.
Your Honor.
But
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah,
Well,
I guess sure you can plead.
He was a salesman.
Right, but he was a used car salesman. He was given a bad name to the profession.
I didn't figure
no.
there's a lot of risk since you know. I mean, I say Elizabeth, what's her name at Theranos? She probably never do time.
Elizabeth
for what-
Holmes?
yeah. So you know, I mean, kind of what I did.
So
I
this
mean,
is like the Dropout, but this is okay. Yeah, that's a great show.
Yeah,
All right.
nobody cared until if you hadn't
Hey,
brought it up.
well, nobody
and-
cares.
Yeah,
Sure,
We're
yeah.
having fun with it.
Oh come
Yeah.
on, Charles Hamilton, Foots Walker. It's all
Yeah.
we're all having fun.
I guess
It's
Yaz never.
basketball.
Yeah, don't Yaz probably would have. You know, some of these guys. If
You
he
know,
found- he
Yaz
would've
probably-
Said, hey, you know, that's all right, but I guess he.
Yeah, I
all
think
right.
he was old school.
Yes is
Little
probably
proud.
Okay. He said,
Yeah.
"Hey, Footsie's, you know, he's
Yeah.
from
Oh, that's
some-
nice.
hey,
I
down
don't
the
know.
road there."
Maybe that doesn't strike me that would have happened, but sure, Jerry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
One more note on these trophies. I was wondering what you guys think of this. Apparently, and I think the commissioner announced this last week, the NBA is going to award a trophy to the team with the best record in the regular season, which I believe they do. People, the hockey fans, going, yeah, I think they have the President's Cup in the NHL. I think they do that. So
Okay.
part of it is, hey, we're going to incentivize finishing with the best record. What do you guys make of that?
I'm less than enthused, I guess I could say.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly doesn't
Yeah.
hurt. I mean, it's you know, it is an accomplishment for sure to have the best record. But I mean, so often the team with the best record doesn't win the
I know.
championship.
Then it becomes an embarrassment, right?
Or-
It's like winning your division and hanging a division title banner, and then
Nothing wrong with
having a team in your division winning the world championship.
now
Well,
here's
that could happen, but
I
sure,
do
you
have-
still earned the banner.
I have a different take on this than anybody, and you guys will attack me. Most people do,
Well,
but I've always said the Warriors winning 73 games the year they did, the most in the history, and they didn't win the championship. But you know, as years go by, you know, that will be more meaningful than any of their championship years because they've won 4 championships. So, I mean, you've got 4 championships, but there's only one team in history. There's a lot of teams won championships, but there's only one that won 73 games in a regular season. What do you think about
Okay.
that?
To me, I still think that to win that many games and then to come up just short is more of a failure. And I
Yeah.
know that's very high standard and not fair. You're right. I just remember previously when the Lakers, they set the record for most wins way back 72, whatever it was, then they won the championship. And then the Bulls did it and they won the championship. So to me in the NBA, the playoffs and the finals are so much more important than the regular season. I don't know. I know Bob Myers has said what you've said, and it's hard to argue with that. I can't imagine how difficult that was to do. But to me, it's still 73, and they didn't win the championship. Maybe that's unfair, but that's the way I see it.
Yeah, the accomplishment may be better. I think the 73 wins in the season, the accomplishment is better, but you're not going to have the feeling about it because you didn't close it out. You know, I mean,
I
it's
agree.
the Patriots 18-0, and then they don't.
And they
win
were
the Super Bowl.
that close. The Warriors were that close, to win.
No,
that.
I agree with everything you say.
Hey, they were a pretty good team. Not doubting that, my friend.
No, I mean,
It's a good
I
crew.
agree with everything you say. Yeah, you want the championship, but the point is, there's a
yeah.
whole lot of champions. There's one team that won 73 games, only one, and there'll probably never be another. And in my opinion, is in 50 years, people will look back and say, "My God, how is that possible?
Yeah.
How was that possible?"
Maybe-
Now they'll say, "Well, they didn't win." No,
How is that
how
possible?
was that
They
possible?
didn't win the championship.
But maybe
Well,
with
they
the
might say
hindsight,
that, too.
with the benefit of hindsight, they'll be able to see that as part of the fabric of everything else the Warriors did. It's like, yeah, they didn't win that year, but they won 4, and they won 73 the year they didn't win. So, yeah, I
if you're
understand
trying to
that.
talk
Anyway.
dynasty or
Yeah.
whatever, that's
You know, it's
feather in their
interesting
cap.
to me. If they won the championship that year, I don't think they would have gotten Kevin Durant.
Probably not.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I guess you could argue they were – and they never really had to suffer any consequences for that. Like, oh, why didn't we win? Because next thing you know, they lose in June, and then in July 4th, whatever, oh, we got Kevin
Kevin
Durant.
Durant's on our team now, so
Yeah,
I guess
so it all
we're
worked out.
I guess we're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But they never won 73 games with Durant.
True.
that's true.
But I
Didn't win 2
appreciate
titles.
what you said about how no one will do that again because – and I think – you know, just the load management will have a lot to do with that. I was watching last night the Hawks. Anybody watch the Hawks and the Grizzlies?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Nobody played.
Yeah.
Everybody was
sorry.
what? Trae
Okay,
Young didn't
sorry.
play. Ja didn't play. I mean, everybody was out. And
That's
it was
what we say. It's a TV show, and their stars aren't playing, and
Yeah.
they wonder why nobody pays attention.
Yeah.
except for you, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't really paying that much attention.
But
It was
you knew the
disappointing.
game was going on.
Yeah.
But, I
and
mean,
then
that's the
worse
thing.
than that, I'm
Uh-oh.
sorry.
Ooh, jeez.
The Clippers and the Celtics last night, I need to ask you guys what happened. I really need to ask you what happened because I couldn't watch it because it was blacked out at my house.
Oh.
And I live in Sacramento.
So, I
Well,
live
that
in
probably
Lincoln.
explains your problem right there.
You got to move,
Why are
man.
the
You got
Clippers
to move.
and the Celtics on NBA TV blacked out where it says, due to contractual, we cannot show you this game. What?
Somebody flipped the wrong switch. That's all that happened. Back
They
in the
think
NBA
I live in
game.
Los Angeles or something?
Oh, come on. You could,
What? Come on,
I'm
what?
just-
I could not watch the game.
Okay, those things happen. It's an administrative error, okay? Contact
What?
NBA TV.
There's a line there that goes from Sacramento
Yeah.
County to Placer County. Had you been
On
May-
the,
I
on the right
guess.
side of it, on our side.
Yelling at-
there you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
sorry.
Really, I don't understand that, and it bothered me a great deal. I tried desperately
I don't
to
have
watch
the
game.
answer for you.
But I guess it
Yeah.
wasn't much of a game, was it?
No, not really. I mean, the Celtics. I mean, they just got wiped out for second straight game, and the Clippers look like who we thought the Clippers were gonna be because Kawhi was really good. Not maybe 100% yet, but man, he was good. And of course, Paul George and they've got.
That just
I
gets
mean,
you excited
they
again for
definitely
them.
look like a team that could win the West
Yeah.
if, in fact, and we know it's not a fact that those guys would be available for duty
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
a regular basis.
How many fast break points did the Celtics have last night?
Last night they had 8.
They had 1.
Yeah, I was giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
yeah.
Point being, I think
Maybe
if
they
there's
were
a
tired
recipe
a
to
little
beat
bit.
them, we saw some of that Saturday, right, Jerry, against the Warriors.
Yeah.
If you can slow them down and get them in the half court, they have some of the same problems the Celtics do that they had last year in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, they really do. Like most teams in the league, they really need to get out and get easy baskets in the open floor. And, when they can't do it, the game gets tougher. I mean, we saw that with the Kings against the Knicks that, it's just I mean, they had some good shots, but they had to play in the half court a little more than they wanted to. And so that the game gets tougher.
Are we going to see more teams playing that way? Are gonna
We
see more-
should.
Yeah.
We should, but we won't. No. Regardless of how bad a team is, fans, media say, "Oh, we got to play up to fast. Got to play fast
Got
tempo.
to put
play
up
pace."
more threes. Got to put up more threes.
So if you're really bad, let's have more possessions. So we'll basically the difference between us and a good team will be greater.
Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
know. It's insane. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
only making 32% of your shots. Take more shots.
Now,
Yeah.
I mean,
Make
now
30%
having
more
said,
shots.
I mean, certainly the Warriors are playing the way they should, and the Kings are playing the way they should. That's probably where they can be most effective. But should the San Antonio Spurs play that way, or the Orlando Magic play that way? No, I don't think so. Houston Rockets, should they play that way? No, they should be trying to grind it out.
Yeah, but the Rockets, I think one of the reasons a team like the Rockets play that way is because it helps you in your ultimate goal of getting better draft picks.
And not
and
winning.
you can say,
Yes. Oh,
we're
entertaining.
developing the youngsters, and this is how we want to play when you see them throwing the ball all over the place.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
I'm-
exactly how.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the whole thing too. Yeah, we're developing youngsters. They are learning how to lose on a regular basis, but we have leading scorers on this team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, our guys have good stats.
Yeah.
Or at least they look like good stats because
Yeah.
until you look at them, yeah, they got 22 points on 23 shots.
Sure.
Well, that ain't good.
Right, right. But they just beat the Bucks somehow.
Yeah, they
as you
did.
pointed out to me.
Well,
Yeah,
it's,
the Spurs
you
beat
know,
the Cavs last night.
You know, on anybody can beat anybody. They're like I say, you know, talking about go back with the Warriors 73 wins. There's nobody like that now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd be surprised if there's a 60-win team. Period. In this year, that anybody wins 60 games.
Wide open, Phantom.
Yeah, because your best guys are playing maybe 70 games.
Yeah,
maybe
they-
not. You know, I mean, and the Celtics.
But is that it? Is that why
That's
it's so?
part of it. Partly that's it.
Part
and then
of it? What is-
That's part of it. Partly and part. It's you put those two words together, you get part of it.
Parshevit, I think, is one of those guys from
Part
Europe.
of it is
that's
actually from India. Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
Parshevit-
My mistake.
Somebody
Yeah.
Parshevit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you get like they're at the end of a road trip, so obviously you can't make a lot of determinations on what they're doing right now. And that's the thing when they're not making getting the fast break points. Still, they have the two guys that can do the things that NBA players have done since George Mikan's day, which is go out and get buckets on their own with Tatum and Brown. And if they're not doing that, then obviously they're not going to be successful. But they've got that, which a lot of teams don't have if they're not playing well on that pace.
Tonight, one of the reasons I'm so excited, I know you guys are uncomfortable with how excited I am.
really kind of.
Yeah, we got two great games tonight. Of course, every night the NBA just it giveth and giveth again. We got the Warriors and the Bucks tonight, and we've also got really excited about the Kings and the Sixers because to me there's kind of an old school feel to that in that both teams rely so much on the men in the middle.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, obviously Embiid is maybe the most talented big man in the league. I mean, I think Jokic has been more productive consistently, but when he's at his best, I don't know how you guard him. You know,
35 or more points in 4 straight games.
yeah,
Just had
and
50 something. Yeah,
certainly going to be a tough matchup for Domas, but the Kings obviously their success goes through him.
yeah.
I mean, and certainly Embiid is the same way. So it would be. That's a good point. I mean, it's.
2 7-footers going head to head, right? Wink. Wink.
Yeah, I was go. That's another classic. Now I had nothing to do with this.
Okay, here we go.
But if you look,
All right.
if you
Here we
look
go.
on the NBA website or whatever, and I don't know if the Kings, but they got Domas Sabonis listed at 7-1. Now he's not 7-1 if
No.
he stood on top of his shoes, and
Okay.
and you'll notice probably when he stands next to 7-foot Joel Embiid that
Yeah.
he might be a half head shorter.
Giving up a little bit.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it's I guess it's been out there for.
Huh.
They assumed he was the son of Arvidas.
Arvidas, yeah.
Arvidas
was
was
7'3" or
so-
something like that.
7'3",
Yeah,
so
7'3", sure.
and
But I
he
mean,
was actually 7'3". Yeah.
with Embiid coming off 53, I mean, and Sabonis prone to foul trouble anyway. I mean, how did they right off the break there? Philly's going to try to get the ball into Embiid and try to work on
think?
Sabonis, get him in
I'm
foul
gonna write
trouble.
that down.
So
Phantom's,
what?
Phantom's key to the game. Philly's going to get the ball to
Hey,
Embiid.
that's okay. Thank you. That is my first. Well, that's my first key to the game. Parshevit told me that. Yeah. But I mean, they've got to be a little bit worried. I mean, he's been in foul trouble before, and they're going to go right at him at the beginning.
Well, I mean, they've really got some tough matchups all over the place. I mean, Harden's playing again. Obviously now Tyrese Maxey, I think he's still out.
He is out.
Which
yeah.
I mean, he's a terrific. He tough.
Going
cover.
into this year, I thought he was better than Fox. Now, I mean, Fox, I think this year's upped his game, but going into this season, I would have said
He
I
was
thought
better
Maxey-
last season.
Yeah, that's what I
he's
thought.
a better
Yeah.
all-around player, I
Yeah,
think, in
yeah.
fairness, and that's why there was a time where people said, well, the Sixers and some of the East Coast geniuses were saying the Sixers ought to trade trade for Fox. And I said, well, why would they do that? They've got a younger,
Yes.
a cheaper version.
Yes. Yeah.
That's probably better defensively. And, and of course, they didn't, of course, too. I mean, there's that. But, I think it'll be interesting because the Kings really need to play fast, and the Sixers really need to play a little more half court. And the old deal, I mean, for the Kings to win, their bench has got to be good. They got to take care of the ball, and they got to make their threes, all the things they didn't do against the Knicks. But if they do those three things, they'll have a chance.
You know what jumps out to me when you get into the stats? I know with Philly they can be a little misleading because they've had guys in and out of the lineup. They've been a really good defensive team this year, and they've really defended the three-point line well. So that's another thing that makes it a little trickier, a little more problematic for the Kings tonight.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. It's going to be a tough go. And I mean, it's also true. I think the Sixers, if Embiid's not having a good shooting game, which he's had some that weren't, they have a tough time scoring 100 sometimes. So it's just almost two different styles. It's not to say, and then of course Harden, you don't know what kind of game for sure you're going to get. I mean, how much will he be able to take 5 little steps backwards to make his three? Will that be allowed in this game? Or
the Harden hop?
Yeah, little Harden hippity hop.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I was playing basketball with one of my nephews a couple years ago, and he'd get the ball and he'd do that, and I wanted to say, hey, that's basketball.
You explained that to me a couple years ago that you can do that.
Well, on the gather you can go forward, but when you take the ball and go backwards,
well, once you can do that, they're going to expand on it. You know that, and they're going to have to crack down on that next year. That'll be the focus next year. After traveling is the focus this year.
But can we agree that when Harden is more of a distributor and Embiid is the main offensive thrust for them, they're probably a better team and harder to guard?
I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, they really, where Harden can go get 20 points, and
he is a good passer,
and he's an excellent passer. And so, that's they're going to be they could be a factor in the East. There's no doubt. Still, we just they got it's health for all those teams. That's the way the league is now. I was just reading this morning where Cade Cunningham, last year's number one, is out for the year. Played about 6 or 7 games, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's their way of doing what Houston's doing. We're going to shut Mr. Cunningham down.
Surgery on his shin, so it's not like he's I'm fine.
Absolutely, but it's just odd that has happened. Yeah,
there was a time when a player like that would be trying like heck
to
want to
get back
before the
into
end of the season, right? And the team would want him to.
I would think so. Yeah. But I mean, I'm like you though. I would probably am cynical enough now that I'd say, okay, league, I want a doctor in there to look at that surgery in action, see if there's actual surgery.
See if somebody performed surgery.
See if somebody performed surgery.
Well, that's the thing with those two teams that we talk about before the season, Philadelphia and Brooklyn. Both of them, they kind of came out slow, and then they get guys back, and then Brooklyn's playing a lot better now. But then again, somebody goes down, and all of a sudden they're dropping back. But they have the talent to go ahead and win the whole thing, win the whole Eastern Conference. But it's just interesting because Brooklyn started out so slow, and all of a sudden now they kind of sneak up on you. And now I think they're 2 or 3 games over 500, so you're hitting their stride.
I think they're even more than that.
Yeah, Philadelphia
like
the same way.
12
something
or
like, okay, so they really put it to
Do you want to go after him on Ben Simmons at all, or you guys?
I'm going to give him a pass, although Ben's playing pretty well.
Was Ben back? You never know with Ben.
Yeah,
the last thing I heard, he's going out with Megan Thee Stallion. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's what I'm finding out. I know you and I read the same stuff.
Yeah.
So
what?
That's what that's the last. I read a couple of different websites, and you guys.
I just pay attention to when he's on the court.
Well, that's okay. I like to find out a lot about the people because when you're worrying about a guy's mental health, you got to know a lot about it.
Well, that might affect his mental health. Yeah. But T.J. Warren is now playing basketball again for the Brooklyn Nets and has been a double-figure scorer off the bench.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's one of the guys on the massive list of names that is eligible on the 15th to be traded because he signed
90% of the league or something.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of guys, which probably led to. I know you guys on the Kings Herald had a conversation about all these guys and rumors and this and that. Which
no, actually we didn't know.
Oh, okay.
I had some rumors about trades, of course, because you always, the Kings are one of the teams interested in, this group of guys, and it's clickbait stuff because they never say. Well, like I had some fan that called in and wanted to know, thoughts about. Should the Kings go after one of these guys? And I said, Well, sure, if you can get him for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, if you can get Siakam for a second-round pick, get him because he.
That's good. That's good advice. Right there.
I suspect that's not what they have in mind.
Yeah. But you were actually talking about OG Anunoby, weren't you?
Yeah, OG Anunoby, who's a good player. Yeah, there again, it's like, well, if you got to give up a lottery pick and Harrison Barnes, well, don't do that.
Wouldn't it be great if people could call our podcast Phantom?
Yeah, it would be fantastic.
We
had Stones McCoy would come up, devise a method that we could do that.
Yeah.
What?
So reach out to us, get in touch with us with your questions, your comments. We get a few comments here and there, and they're generally really positive, and we really appreciate that. I'm glad you guys are doing that.
So we want to get more comments. They don't necessarily have to be positive, but
they
we just want to get more. We just want to get more.
Yeah. We got to
we can deal with some negatives.
Yeah.
You know, I
if
mean,
you're a little worried by Jerry's practices back in the day, some of the things he did, that's fine. Probably the statute of limitations has gone off.
You ever heard what he told Bob McAdoo?
What?
Oh, that when I was recruiting McAdoo. It was actually quite brilliant, I thought.
We'll be the judge of that.
Well,
Jerry.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we had Mac on campus, and he's from North Carolina, Greensboro, North Carolina. I had him up there, and so happens the governor of the state was in Vincennes for an educational conference of some type. So I went to the governor and said, we got this guy we're really trying to recruit. If you could.
So you just went up to the governor.
Yeah. I said, hey, Gov, come over here a minute.
Yeah.
Hey, Jerry. Kind of like you did. I said, come over here.
Hey, Governor. And he came right over.
This is all above board, sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm loving this. This is fantastic.
No, he was a basketball fan.
Indiana.
He's in Indiana, or he would have been not allowed to be governor.
Would not have been elected.
And so he was, I can spend a few minutes between this or that. And so we worked it out.
Nice.
And I said, well, I'll get Mac and I'll walk over to this building when you're there, and if you could spend a few minutes and tell him how much it means to the state and us. And so he did that. He was very, very, very good. Evan Bai, I think, was his name. I'm sure. Anyway, and young guy. And then so after it happened, Mac was really impressed. He said, "Wow." He said, I grew up in North Carolina and everything. I've never even met the governor of North Carolina. And he said, here it is. The governor of Indiana flies down to meet me and everything. I said, yeah, Mac, that's the way we feel about you. And,
so you just repurposed it a little bit.
I repurposed
Nothing wrong with that.
But it, So anyway, I thought it was a nice little story, and Mac was impressed, and certainly he should have been, because the governor did take his time, and certainly the North Carolina governor, they probably wouldn't have.
They did not do that. No.
They had no respect for him at all.
Right.
No, I think that's totally above board.
Yeah.
In fact, I applaud the inventiveness. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well done, recruiting man.
People believe what they want to believe.
Yeah.
I think Jerry was ahead of his time in this regard. What do you think of this?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. Because Jerry had been a basketball coach for a long time, successful, not on the national stage a big name. But when he became head coach of the Kings, at that time a lot of NBA head coaches were guys who had played, or they were famous coaches, and Jerry was obviously very accomplished, but just not really famous. And I think now we see that more with hirings. Would you agree with me? I don't mean in any way to be disrespectful. It's just that you didn't have the profile of a coach who coached at a major program, and now we see more teams hiring guys like that, really solid coaches with really solid backgrounds.
A long resume, but not necessarily in the spotlight.
In some way, I think you were the first.
I think it goes in cycles. There was a period where the NBA, for a long time, basically, the head coach was a guy who wasn't a very good player, and they said, well, we're going to cut you or you can coach.
That's,
and you can
but you're already on the payroll.
And there's only one coach, so,
so
that went through, in the 50s and early 60s, and then in the early 60s, and then a few teams decided that, we're going to get some college coaches, the John McLeods and Bill Fitch and Dick Motta, and they all had success. Cotton Fitzsimmons, there was a whole bunch of them came in, and they were very successful, so they were real coaches.
Yeah.
And then they kind of, I think, taught coaching, and then basically then you got former players, guys who had played and had been assistant coaches for a number of years, prepared themselves to coach, and so you went that way. And then the college coaches that they tried to hire, probably in the early 2000s, most of them didn't work. The game had changed to where they didn't really fit, and so And now it's pretty much guys who have been, former players for the most part, and been on staffs for a number of years,
And paying their
and
dues,
usually
yeah, paying dues.
usually several different staffs. So
I'm thinking like Taylor Jenkins and Willie Green and guys that most of us like, wait, who's this guy as a coach? And they're really good coaches.
really good
Yeah.
coaches,
Yeah.
and for the most part, kind of, now Taylor Jenkins wasn't a player, but Willie was a player in the league, didn't play much, or Darvin Ham,
Yeah.
guys that really hadn't played a lot.
Right.
So, or guys like Mike Brown, had been on a lot
Yeah.
of experience, but had been on a lot of staffs, and all that. So, I guess to me, it's a little bit more like the NFL now, because guys to get jobs and say be a head coach, you probably had to be on a staff for a number of years. Like an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator in the NFL for years.
building up your resume.
Building up
that
your
way.
resume.
Yeah.
So, what does it mean?
Gotcha.
What does it mean? Not much if you don't have the best players.
Yeah. I'm still sticking with you. You were ahead of your time.
You
Yeah.
build up your resume,
Yeah.
you get up there, you got no talent.
yeah,
it
you
doesn't
know,
matter. You get fired,
yeah,
and you go
yeah.
back again.
Now, Mr. Phantom, I believe
Yes.
you've declared yourself a keeper of the unwritten rules of baseball. Is that true?
That is
Yes?
correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Are you also a keeper of the unwritten rules of basketball?
Yes, I have branched out. Yes,
Okay,
I
so-
think definitely I am.
What do you think of what happened with Zion's dunk against the Suns? And I think
Yes.
that same night was that Friday. Zion at the end of a game, the Pelicans and the Suns, rather than just stand there and wait for the clock to run out, he threw down a tremendous 360 jam. And then the Suns were very upset. I think that same night back in Utah, Rudy Gobert scored late with a dunk for Minnesota. Kind of a punctuation mark was like, "Hey, we don't do that." What do you think of that?
I
And
didn't
the
see
Suns
the
being upset.
I didn't see the Rudy Gobert one. I saw that Zion one, and I didn't really have a problem with it. Though I don't like the whole thing where teams give up, and I know it's professional basketball and you don't want to get hurt, but when teams give up like with more than 24 seconds left, like the team that's ahead will dribble it out till it's like 8 seconds, and the other team will get it and they'll dribble out. I hate that. I know the game is already decided. When I saw the Zion one, I saw in the flow of the game, and they threw it down to the guy who dunks like Zion. He's going to go dunk the ball. That's fine. I didn't have a problem with that. In some situations, when a guy takes a late 3-pointer, I think maybe it resounds, feels a little different. But in that case, I didn't really have a problem with what Zion did. Like I say, I didn't see the Gobert one. I don't know.
Let's put the Gobert one aside, because
usually-
really it's the same thing, but the Zion case was a more
Usually when I'm watching a
extreme
game
example.
and I see a team in control of the ball and they're ahead at the end and they don't have to shoot, I usually say don't shoot. You shouldn't shoot. Don't shoot. But in the Zion case, you are entertaining people. It is entertainment, so I don't have a problem with what he did.
How about you, Coach?
I think there's two things that I didn't care. I don't care for it because the game's over. But I do agree with Phantom. What does bug me is like there's 30 seconds
Yep.
to go and you're up 10, and so you dribble it out. So there's 6 seconds left, and the other team. I mean, if you got the 24-second clock and the game's not going in, you ought to go try to score.
Yeah.
Just as respect for the game.
In a way, that's violating an unwritten rule.
I
That-
think it
that-
is.
In
I
my
really
mind,
think
it
it
is.
is. Yeah.
Now, what Zion did, I don't think he should have done that. The game's over, and there was nobody trying to guard him.
Coach K, he probably was just beside himself.
Probably was, yeah. But then the other side of it is, though, Zion was, in my opinion, was wrong for doing that because they certainly didn't try to defend him, and then maybe that's on them. But then again, I'm equally offended by, if not more so, by Phoenix trying to make a big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
so you guys are a bunch of you going to get into pushing matches over this? How silly is that? You can be offended. I'd be saying, well, that's crappy. You shouldn't have done that. And
Right.
go to your locker room.
Don't get in a fight
You
for
got
it,
your
yeah.
ass beat.
Yeah.
Right.
Shut up and get in the locker room.
I think it probably gave them something to focus on besides the fact they got their ass kicked. Was like,
Yeah.
hey, did you see that? And Zion kind of played it both ways after the game. He said, yeah, I got to be better than that. But he also said, these are the guys that knocked my team out of the playoffs and sent us home. To me, it was disrespectful, but that was the point of it. It was
So that's what he was trying to send. He's sending a message, a shot across the bow, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because they'll probably go down with Phoenix to the end this year in the Western Conference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of establishing a little dominance there.
Yeah, and then they played, that was Friday. They played Sunday. Pelicans won in overtime. And then we talk a lot on this show about the great Eddie Johnson, because I know
Yes,
you
we do.
coached him and we were fans. We've had a chance to talk to him, and he's a Suns broadcaster now. He suggested that some of the boos for Chris Paul, who, of course, used to be in New Orleans and then left, there was a lot of boos in the building for Chris Paul. Eddie Johnson suggests that they were mechanically enhanced booze.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
How about that?
Well, people do import crowd noise, and that's kind of the same thing. But I don't like that. If that's true, I think
because
I'm
looking at people's mouths, and they're not saying anything, but yet there's a lot of booze.
Okay. All
Well,
right, yeah.
here's 2 points. If Eddie said it, it's fact.
Okay. Jerry, you got me.
Okay.
I'm with you.
That's probably the smartest
I'm in the church of Eddie. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
good.
I'm worshiping at the throne there. But the second thing is having what experience I had in New Orleans. Now I realize that this was a bigger game, but I mean, most of the time they'd have to pump noise in there and maybe pump in fake people. You know, 'cause
They got all those guys
I'd
from
always-
the car lots. They're putting them in there. Yeah.
I mean, they'd always
Holograms of
yeah,
fans.
yeah.
Yay.
Hey,
Well,
boo, Chris, boo.
Well, they'd always say too, you know, they'd always announce the crowd, you know, and I'd say, you know, crowd of 16,000, and of course, it's like a eighth full, you know. I said, I tell Grant, I said, unless this building seats about 70. I mean, it couldn't have been 6,000 people in the building. I mean, you no way could have been that many on many occasions. 16,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now it's different in Miami. I always say Miami always says a sellout, and you'll see there's no.
There's nobody there. Yeah.
But the seats
They've
are sold.
They've sold
right.
all the
They've
tickets.
sold out.
Yeah,
They got so
yeah.
many rich people
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
only go to
Right.
select. They'll buy season tickets to go to 10 games a year. So it's a little different. I get, but most places aren't like that.
I think your point also gets us back to Zion and his dunk. I mean, these Pelicans, they are trying to get the city a little
Yeah.
more excited about a team.
They got
It's
a heck of a
actually
team.
Damn good team.
Yeah, very
But
good
you know,
team.
if it takes a dunk when the game is over to get you excited, really, are you a basketball fan? You think?
No, they're not.
No, that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
No,
Yeah.
no. I mean, it's like, to me, it's like, okay, you beat their butts,
Yeah.
set the ball down. Thank you very much. We'll see you
Yeah.
on Sunday for the
Yeah.
next game.
Yeah.
You know, it used to bother me even more than teams, holding the ball.
I hate that.
Is when you'd see players and they didn't want to get stuck with a turnover, so the clock would be winding down, the shot clock, and there'd be a little more time left of the game. And so you'd see a guy, and I saw Buddy Hield do this one time.
Yeah, I did.
Right before
Yeah.
the shot clock starts, pass it to a teammate.
Yeah.
And then I remember
Yeah,
one, I think he
yeah.
threw it to Costa Kufis,
Yeah.
if I remember right. And Kufis like, what do you expect me to do with this?
And the whistle
Yeah,
blows, and all of a
yeah.
sudden it's his turnover.
But
Yeah.
it turns out it's not it's like a shot clock violation.
So
it's
it's
not
just
an
like a team
individual
turnover, yeah.
But some players like,
but-
I don't want a turnover here. You take the turnover.
Well, that's the same with guys. A lot of guys, rather than taking a 50-foot shot,
Yep,
will
a lot of
try
guys.
to take a couple extra dribbles, knowing full well the
Yeah.
clock has run out.
Isn't that
and
funny?
then throw one.
Yeah,
Yes.
the half second after buzzer shots.
Yeah,
There are
yeah.
a lot of those that go
Yeah.
up. Yeah. Oh,
Mr.
geez.
Bibby,
I-
to my eye, was always one of those guys that like,
Yeah,
too
yeah.
late.
Mitch would never shoot it.
Really?
He would just never. He'd dribble it out for that matter. Because,
Yeah.
It's a 70-foot shot. Why am I going to
Yeah.
hurt my shooting
Something
percentage?
field
like
goal
3-point
attempt.
percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You're all right with that, huh, fam?
Well, in that case, I was okay with Zion. Again, you're trying to revive a moribund franchise. You're trying to get these people up off their seats, and I think he just gets carried away. What is he, still like 19 years old or something? I mean, he's really young still. So I give him a pass on that.
Yeah. That's pretty good team there in New Orleans.
Oh,
Great team.
yeah. And then, Ingram's been hurt. He's been out.
And CJ hasn't been great yet.
Yeah, and he's been in and out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Herb Jones. No, they're legitimate, I think, in the West, and I think we saw that at the end of last year.
I really appreciated I can't remember if it was Friday or Sunday after the game. CJ was asked by the Pelicans reporters, "It's a rivalry now?" And CJ McCollum said, "It's not a rivalry till we do something in the playoffs."
Yeah,
Which is
somebody's
like,
got to
yeah.
do something.
Yeah.
He's a wily, cagey
He
vet.
is.
He
Yeah.
understands. And,
Yeah.
but, yeah, you got to like them. I mean, really, when you look at the West, I mean, themselves and the Grizzlies and the Nuggets are probably the three best teams right now.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I've said I think the Nuggets are the best because they played 16 road games, far more than anybody else, and their record is pretty close.
And
So-
if the season ended today, Jer, which I hope it doesn't.
Let me check. It does
See,
not.
And the season ticket holders would be upset.
They would.
Kings are in that first round series visiting those Phoenix Suns.
Well,
You know,
and the
they're
King-
a little bit wounded after those losses
Well,
to the
and the
Pelicans.
Kings, and here's a stat for you. I think the Kings have a win margin of a little over 3 points. They'd be about fifth in the entire league. What? Tied for fifth in the entire league.
You keep coming up with these stats, Jer. I
So-
don't know.
Well, I always say
No,
that's the stat.
Yeah.
The least important stat on a game-to-game basis is a plus minus in the games, which is less than meaningless. You know,
I
mean,
don't really
anybody that
understand.
brings it up, I just want to punch them in the face. You know, I
Jerry,
don't
man.
talk about plus and minus.
I have brought it. I admit
he has brought it up
Well,
several times, and his face looks unmarked to me. I don't know why.
Well,
But I don't think it's the most meaningless stat. Most meaningless stat to me is when you talk about like their defense based on how many points they give up. Because defense. Well, you can be a bad defensive team and still not give up a lot of points. It's based on other things.
But if you give up a lot of points, you're not a good defensive team.
you can be. It depends on how many possessions there are.
well, it depends on win margin again.
Yes.
There you go.
yes,
If I give
yes.
up 120 and score 130,
Yeah.
It depends, Jerry.
that's
I
a
shouldn't say
10-point
that.
margin.
It depends on what your plus minus is.
Yeah, but anyway,
It really
now,
depends on that.
Now, I'm not against. I like the plus and minus if it's over 50 games or 60 games or
just-
something like that.
Jaylen Brown was a
that'll-
minus 26.
Ah, jeez, Jerry,
Yeah.
did you hear
Well,
that?
see, there you go. Cut him. Get rid of him.
Yeah.
Clearly, he can't
Yeah.
play.
He can't
Yeah.
cut it in this league.
Yeah.
Not in this
Marcus
league.
Smart minus 25.
Well,
Wow, that team must be. They must really suck.
Yeah, well, he hadn't been very good this year, really. Actually, Brogdon's been playing better than him, but that's
You mentioned the Nuggets. Do you know what the Nuggets did on this date? This would be an edition of Phantom's Time Capsule, which he has no idea
Okay.
what I'm doing here. This date, 1983. You know what the Denver Nuggets did?
Scored 180 points or something.
They lost to Detroit. You're right, they did. Triple overtime. Detroit 186. Denver 184. Highest scoring game in NBA history.
But that doesn't mean they're bad defensive teams just because they gave up a lot of points.
what Denver was.
Well, they just shot. They didn't even go back on defense,
No,
did they?
Denver.
They played, yeah.
You know, they'd give you a shot now and
Yeah.
then just in order to shoot it themselves.
Yeah, exactly. They go.
Kiki
"Oh,
Vandeweghe had 51. Alex English had 47.
Yeah.
In the losing effort for the Pistons, Isaiah had 47. And John Long.
Oh yeah,
John
John Long.
yeah.
He put the
Yeah.
ball up. Yeah.
And one of the numbers that jumped out to me, Detroit that night, 47 assists, and only, remember, this is triple overtime, only 13 turnovers.
Wow.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
Pretty good. Well, there again, though. You're playing against the Nuggets. They don't really want to steal it either.
He didn't have a lot of respect for the Nuggets' defensive
Yeah,
game.
they were just waiting for you to shoot it so they could go shoot it.
Yeah. So on this date, 1983, Detroit 186, Denver 184, triple overtime, quiz time. Both of you come over here and say,
Okay.
how many 3-point baskets were made in the game? If you want to, yeah.
Phantom.
1983. You both are going to get a chance
Oh,
to
I
guess.
thought we'd have buzz in.
You buzz
Yeah,
in
I knew he
first.
was going
So
to buzz in.
what's your guess, Phantom?
4?
4? What do you say, Jer?
6.
6. Let's see. Both teams shot 2 and made 1. So there's a total of 2. The two teams were combined 2 for 4 beyond the arc.
Price is Right rules. Both of us are out. Stones wins.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Congratulations,
Can you
Stones.
believe that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can because it's 1983. They just legalized it 4
Right.
years before. No one shot it.
Yeah.
So, I
especially
mean-
if you're Detroit, it's like they're not even trying to guard us. Why am I going to stand
Well,
out
like,
here?
yeah, like Kiki, like what is he? He shot the 16 to 18 footer.
Yeah.
That's all he ever
That's
did.
all
He
he
just got
kinda
to shoot.
did.
And Alex English, he's not going to go out that far.
No,
away
he was
from
a
the basket.
15, 16
So,
foot
and
guy.
Isaiah's not doing it. Yeah. So I mean, nobody's game was that, but that is still. Both teams are 1 for 2.
Different game.
But it's also true is that if Kiki and Isaiah
English.
and English were playing in today's game,
man.
I guarantee you they would have learned to shoot the
Oh,
3
man.
and been good at it.
And they'd have been unbelievable. Especially,
You know,
I
so
think
it's
Kiki
a-
would have been Mr. Stretch. He would have been out there. Oh, man.
Well, Kiki, there's always a rumor that he played an entire month without getting a rebound and in the NBA.
But Jerry's stat crew had him with 7 a game.
Yeah, Charles Hamilton had 20 in that game.
Yeah, see,
I
if I'd
remember,
been keeping stats for Kiki, he might have been one of the league's leading rebounders.
You still couldn't have given him any rebounds. That's how
No.
bad he was.
No, he didn't. He wasn't. He didn't go in there and battle much.
You know what I remember about him?
He wasn't in the paint very often.
He was such
unless
a
he was throwing a
such
shot.
an excellent offensive player with Denver, and then they traded him to Portland, and he was like, and it was a whole different system.
Well, you know,
and-
though he averaged about 25 a game.
Still
there.
puts points
Did
up,
he?
though.
Yeah,
Yeah, he put points up.
Yeah. But he ended up getting beat out by God. What was his name from Jerome Kersey?
Oh, okay.
Different type of player.
Different type player,
Yeah, a little
much more
bit,
physical.
A little bit more physical. Maybe
Yeah,
he got a couple more rebounds
yeah,
over
but,
the course of a season.
But you know, I mean, once you realize Kiki, no, he's not going to rebound, but
Mm-hmm.
he's going to get you 25.
He's going to
28
get you
points
25
every night.
Often
That's
I
the only
know-
reason he's going out there is to
Yeah.
get 25
Yeah.
points.
Maybe it was just, I know initially he struggled with the offense. I have to look that up, but I know he did have some issues going from the Denver offense to the.
Well,
to
it wasn't.
Portland.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it
definitely not
wasn't
the
the
same.
same,
Yeah.
It wasn't the same. But he because I remember scouting him in those years, and he was he's a tough cover. I mean, he really was. Could get good shots, and Jack Ramsey
Great
was an
offensive
excellent
player,
coach.
yeah.
You know, really had him. They played the spots, and they got Kiki shots, and he made them.
Mm-hmm. You know what we need to do that we haven't done yet is address the passing of a great all-time great player, a guy that I know you knew, Phantom. I know you were. I think you were kind of a fan of Paul Silas,
because he was
longtime
played
NBA
with Connie
player and
Hawkins on
coach.
the Suns. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, it all comes back to that. We lost Paul Silas. Jerry shared with me that Paul Silas nearly became the coach of the Kings.
Well, he and Rick Adelman were the finalists for the job that Rick obviously got, and of course had great success.
Coming out of the
And,
lockout in '99.
Yeah, and you know, we had a couple of different interviews with Paul. Great man. I really, you just can't say enough good things about him. I always thought, you know, just my first experience I think the first time I ever scouted my first year in the league was in Boston Garden, and Paul was there, and we were sitting together, and he's working for another team. And you know, I'm saying it's Paul Silas, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was just, you know, went out of his way to treat me as a somewhat equal, which of course I wasn't and knew I wasn't. But I just, it always resonated with me. And of course, over the years, had a lot more visits with him. But he was always that way, just a class guy. Kind of, I always say, the biggest compliment I can give any guys. He's kind of a Willis Reed type, and Willis was, you know, the old salt of the earth, kind of thing. And that's who he was, and he's that way consistently, and had a, you know, terrific career, and
Played for a long
I
time.
always remember drinking beer with he and Dave Cowan. So there's a sports bar off of Cal Expo area. I can't remember the name of it.
They won 2 championships together.
Yeah, and of course he was an assistant with Cowens at the time. Later followed Cowens as the head coach there, and of course it's really just I'm sitting there, you know, Cowens, and
that's pretty good company.
And all. Yeah,
I'm
you know,
sure they felt the same way.
I didn't notice that. No,
They kept it under wraps.
I think they
did.
said, well, he's buying beer too, so we'll, you know, we'll tolerate him. No, but they were very nice.
And you,
I just, Paul Silas was one of those guys, one of the first guys, I guess, that he just did whatever it took to help the team. I mean, he didn't really care about himself, and I think he transitioned. He did that as far as after his playing career was over too.
probably
as a coach
best
and everything.
remembered now as being LeBron's first head coach.
Head coach, yeah.
Yeah,
He was
I mean,
a
for
heck of
younger
a
fans who
rebounder
don't
back in
remember
the
when he
day,
played.
playing defensive rebounding. You know, not not the scoring guy, but you know, in those days, guys that were doing what he was doing. I mean, he was just doing it to help the team win, and then became one of the great gentlemen of the game after he was done playing.
Yeah, you know, and he played a style. I mean, every team needed that kind of guy, although he's better than most at that position. You know, he really didn't need to shoot. He didn't shoot. He got 10 points on seconds and hustle
putbacks
plays
and stuff,
10 or 11 rebounds and defended and physically could guard power forward centers. You know, very, very physical guy because, you know, nowadays you'd have to have a stretch four.
I got to have some threes from that guy.
You know,
I can't have him.
But I mean, he was perfect and extremely. We were talking about too, extremely physical player. But like say some of the really tough guys on the court were the nicest guys off the floor. I guess they got it all out of their system
Because they have nothing to prove.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
Dave
absolutely.
Stewart. I don't know if you've ever met Dave Stewart. He's one of those guys, really tough guy. I mean, you meet him, he's the nicest guy
Sweet
in the
guy.
world. And some of those guys like Willis and
Well, I've
Silas
always said
and
like Bill Laimbeer. I said, you know, I got to know him a lot during the WNBA days. He was a coach, and by the way, I think he'd be a good NBA coach. But I think he's just so disliked.
Yeah,
and then
he has
there's some
Ring Berry
guys
syndrome,
some guys that are the opposite. They're not very tough at all, but they're just, you know, SOBs. I don't want to point fingers. But
No, well,
Yeah.
total opposite. No, Phantom's a tough cookie.
Was he tough?
From the tough seafaring town of Vallejo, California?
yeah, when you're from Vallejo, you got to work
be
your
able to
way
hold
up.
your own
You
little bit.
can't just show up in Vallejo.
Yeah,
you got to
yeah.
work your
Well,
way
see,
up.
I was never tough, but I always knew who was, and so I'd get them on my side,
Yeah.
and then I could start start stuff.
Sure,
and then,
yeah. You were covered.
Before
Yeah.
I'd get beat up, somebody would step in and help me.
A manipulator. That's where it
Yeah,
started, I think. Yeah,
manipulator,
that's
yeah.
what led you to
Yeah.
falsify rebounds later. Yeah,
Yeah, well, he
Absolutely.
used to beat me up, but I was like 8 and he was
Yeah.
23. or
Well,
whatever,
yeah.
hey,
so.
I understand
Hey, you
that.
take your W's where you can,
Hey.
Jer. You look at my career record, I got a lot of W's
Hey,
on there. It doesn't say who I
Some
fought.
people need beaten up.
Oh, I think you'll agree with that. Huh? I think
Yeah.
we got a guy right here, a candidate for that. Yeah.
Yeah, what was the thing you used to do? Like you'd lick your finger, put an X on somebody's
Yeah.
arm, and then punch him.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah, yeah, it's a good move. Finishing
is a
move.
good
yeah,
move,
I should have been in wrestling as a finishing move. Yeah, it's good when the people you do it to are like 5, 7,
I
8
think
years.
the last
younger.
fight I had, I was about 18, I guess. And the guy, we got in about something. I was both caddies or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll meet at the caddy house afterwards. I said, okay. So,
All right.
so we got there, and he put a chip on his shoulder. He said, knock that chip off. So I knocked it off, but I did not. I just buzzed him in the nose. You
Did you fight Robert Conrad or something?
Yeah. Well, the chip fell
People
off.
actually do that?
Huh? The chip
People
fell
actually-
off.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was the
yeah.
day.
Yeah, you're like, put a chip on. You knock the chip off. Like I think I'm supposed to do that or something. It's like,
You should have said, "Can you hear yourself right now?"
yeah, it's like.
Then you went out and caddied for Bobby
if-
Jones or
Yeah,
something?
if that's your strategy, you haven't really thought this out very well, have you?
He's protecting the chip. You're going
Yeah.
for the face.
Yeah, I'll knock that chip off for you, but not the way you think.
Not a master
Wow.
strategist.
Wow.
No,
Yeah.
Well played.
I call him Chip. You beat up Chip. Nice job. Yeah.
All right, old fashioned 3, A to Z. Where are we now, Stones? We're at the
M.
letter M.
Yeah. M.
M.
I got to start off with one of the all-time. There's so many M's.
So many M's.
Many of them I went through and I said, Jerry, it looks. Oh, Jerry's going to talk about that one. Jerry's
I
going to talk
know,
about that
I know.
one. But I got to go with Earl Monroe because Earl the Pearl, one of the all-time greats, started off with the Bullets. Averaged like 25 a game for his first 3 or 4 years. Then came over to the Knicks, played on a championship team with the Knicks, but did what people thought he couldn't do, which is change the way he played, really, or fit it the way he played into another system. And, when he came to the Knicks, he was playing like 30 minutes a game, averaging 14, 15, 16 points. But still, he was doing that to make it work on one of the great teams of all time. And he was one of the great playground players. Winston-Salem College, I think in North Carolina is where he went. And back in the 60s, you didn't hear about guys that weren't at the big colleges, but you heard about Earl the Pearl Monroe, and had a great career, is, generally regarded as one of the most spectacular and entertaining players in NBA history. So you got to know, if you're going to know basketball, you got to know about Earl Monroe.
Have you ever seen He Got Game?
No.
Okay, with that's Denzel, right? I want to make sure I have my titles right. Yeah, it's a great movie. Jesus Shuttlesworth, played by Ray Allen.
Ray Allen, yeah.
In the movie. You've seen that movie,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's named after Earl Monroe because Denzel tells him in the movie, he says, Earl Monroe, some called him Black Jesus. He said that was the white media. So we just called him Jesus. So
Right.
Jesus
There you
Shuttlesworth
go.
was named after Earl Monroe, who fans that saw him in the playground called him Jesus because he was that good.
And Black Jesus was a tremendous nickname until I found out that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I said, okay. But
Yeah.
still, before that,
Yeah.
that was still a great nickname. And actually, Jesus is a pretty good one,
And
too.
by the way, the greatest thing about that movie is that there's a scene where Ray Allen is playing Denzel one-on-one. And it's like, if I can beat you, whatever. So they're playing, and in the script, it's supposed to go a certain way. But it doesn't go that way because, and if you watch this, you can see it going on. You can see the look of surprise on Ray Allen's face because Denzel actually plays him.
He's playing.
Yes, yeah. And there's a thing where they give the score and it's wrong or something because it was supposed to go a certain way, but Denzel's like, no, because he played at Fordham, I think. He
think
played
that's
a little
right,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah. So he actually and of course he can't beat Ray Allen, but he actually plays him, and the look of surprise on Ray Allen's face, it's like, wow, he's surprised his dad can play well. No, he's surprised because Denzel's actually coming for him.
Doing a little method acting out
Yeah,
there, going,
so it's
you're going to
really
have to
a
really
cool
beat
scene.
me.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. My guy is I you know how I love to sing the praises of the underrated, but this guy, I don't think he's underrated so much. Everyone agrees he was great. They just don't really care. He doesn't get the recognition that a 3-time MVP should get, that the top offensive rebounder of all time should get. Moses Malone. Moses Malone.
Good player. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Good player.
three-time
Yeah.
MVP, won the
Yeah.
one championship with the Sixers in '83. And then we got the Stars pennant right behind you, Jer. Moses Malone came out at age 19 and played in the ABA with the Utah Stars, and he played for a lot of teams. With the Rockets, he was an MVP, had that great year. With the Sixers, of course, for his career, 20.3 points per game. And let's see, he had that 1 year, 82 Rockets, 31 points, 15 rebounds per game in 42 minutes per
That's
game.
good.
And, of course,
Yeah.
you would know better than we would, but apparently what people have always said about him is that one of the reasons he was such a great offensive rebounder is because he would miss on purpose to get his own shot.
Some people would say
pat
that.
his offense because he knew
Not to his face, though.
Yeah,
I
like
wouldn't say
pass it
to
to
his
him,
face.
offensive rebound, offensive. Hey, I scored. But I don't think Moses Malone, for a guy who was an MVP 3 times, gets as widely recognized as he should sometimes.
Yeah, he wasn't a pretty player.
Right.
You know, I mean, he was really just a grinded out blue collar kind of guy, and but he's great. He's absolutely great. And
How do you guard a guy like that?
well, I don't know. You know, really. I mean, he was a one of one kind of player. He really didn't have a particular offensive game except that could really score because he was so physical. And
Yeah.
and they were guys. I mean, really, guys didn't like playing against him. I mean, he did.
Yeah.
And he wasn't dirty. He just hurt them.
Yeah. And he
You know.
came from where, playing in Virginia, some really tough courts. I remember reading a story, I don't know, a writer was there watching where they used to play or something. They had a guy that played with Moses Malone on the playground, and they called him the mailman. Someone says, hey, why do you call him the mailman? And someone says, because he stabbed the mailman. So it was a whole
Not
different-
exactly grew up in
yeah,
Vallejo, but it's
right.
pretty
It's not,
tough.
because
Yeah,
he delivered. No,
absolutely.
that guy stabbed the
He
mailman.
stabbed-
So,
then he
yeah.
became the mailman after he gets rid of the old mailman.
Maybe
That's
so.
That's
Maybe
what
so.
happened.
So
Yeah.
whole different set of circumstances.
Whole different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my M is another great, different Kevin McHale.
Yeah. Ooh, okay.
The great Kevin McHale, probably remember, all those great Boston teams. But, I mean, he was kind of the first kind of power forward that had all the low post moves.
Oh, yeah.
And basically he's been copied over the generation since and decades since of course, like he called it, throw it to me and put him in the torture chamber.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It's
A little full of himself, maybe, but
yeah,
okay.
he was Danny Ainge would always talk about some of the things he came up with, and he came up with torture chamber and heat check.
Heat check.
Nice.
Heat check, he
That's
was
a good one.
Yeah. What are you doing shooting that one? It's a heat check, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
See how hot it was.
Yeah. I like it.
And so, but he had, all the great moves, and of course, I always enjoyed talking to him because he's a very, very bright guy, and I thought he was a good coach, by the way.
Yeah,
I
had
thought
some
he was a
success-
good,
some real
solid
success.
coach as well. So just a marvelous career, and of course, I always remember him talking about playing with the Celtics and in particular playing with Larry, and he'd always say, "Oh, I'd been an all-star wherever I went." He said, "Larry made me a Hall of Famer."
Wow.
There you
He
go.
said, because I wasn't the kind of guy to drive myself, but he'd drive
Right,
me.
yeah.
He said, he would drive me and made me better.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, if I'd have went to Seattle, I'd have been a 6-7-time All-Star and probably gotten the Hall of Fame, but maybe. But he said, Bird put me at another level, and I think there's probably some truth in that. But he's very introspective, I guess would be the word about it. He said, I knew. What it took, and
From Hibbing, Minnesota, right?
Hibbing, Minnesota, second most famous
Yep.
player or person to come out of there, a guy named Bob Dylan.
Okay.
Would be Martin.
Mr. Zimmerman, I call him because I knew him back in the day.
Yeah. So Bob
Yeah.
Dylan. So I'm a fan of both.
Yeah.
Kevin McHale and Bob Dylan.
How does it feel? What was the story? You told us the story about Larry, and you were telling what a great rebounder he was, but he said, I'm not a great rebounder.
Oh, yeah, he's talking about – it's funny because he'd say – because I was brought it up. He's averaging 11 rebounds a game.
Larry was.
At the time, was second or third in the league as a small forward. And I said, well, and you're having a great year. You could probably almost lead the league in rebounds. I said, you're doing a hell of – he said, yeah, I'm not really that good a rebounder, really. I said, wait, what do you mean? You're getting – he said, well, Kevin McHale's a lot better than me. I said, wait a minute, he's a power forward and he's averaging 8. He said, yeah, but he only tries to get about 10. I try to he said, I try to get them all, 100 of them.
Why did he? That was a pretty good trade that Boston
They pulled
made.
off, yeah.
Yeah.
People also forget, McHale and Parrish came, for the rights to Joe Barry Carroll and
Ricky Brown, I think.
solid
yeah,
guy
whatever.
there.
Yeah.
And, of course, but they forget that actually Boston won the championship before they got there. See, they won a championship with Tiny Archibald and Cowens and Chris Ford.
In fact, they beat
and
Moses
Cedric,
Malone
and
and
Cedric,
the Rockets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cedric Maxwell.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
always say, it's like people say, oh, yeah, well, Bird, they won, Parrish and McHale, they were just, well, they didn't have much to do with that first one.
That's right.
much.
That's a
They
good
weren't
point.
there.
Yeah. I thought one of you guys was going to bring up, and they're all great choices, but I thought Sidney Moncrief's name was going to come.
It was
I don't
my
know.
second.
Oh,
was
number
it?
2. He was my
Yeah?
second guy. Yeah,
Great, boy,
But
near
Earl of Pearl.
great, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Sidney
Yeah.
Moncrief, one of those guys really underrated, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
probably not a top 75 guy, but probably a top
Right.
100 guy.
Yeah, right
was
there.
he, and I don't know if I have my years right, was he a guy that supposally Jerry West wanted instead of Magic?
He
Would
is.
that-
Well,
Yeah,
that was
according
the,
to Winning
that
Time,
was the
yeah.
rumor,
Yeah,
according
according to
to
Winning Time,
whether
yeah.
that's true
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
I'd have a tough time believing. I don't want to believe that.
Yeah.
Really?
I just,
Magic's pretty good.
He was my back. Sidney was the backup. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought you'd get McAdoo, but I knew McHale.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
either going to
yeah.
be McAdoo or McHale.
Well, I did McAdoo.
You already
or-
did McAdoo,
yeah, I
so
already
it's
did
all right.
McAdoo.
Yeah. So M was a good one. We could have
Yeah.
gone deep. The
Oh,
great
yeah,
Jeff-
Carl Malone. See,
or his friend Jeff Malone. I was going to
Jeff
Jeff
Malone.
Malone. Interesting guy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Lots
I
of
even
great
thought about
Malones.
Kevin Martin just because of
There you
Kings.
go.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think really an underrated Kings player,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
without a doubt the best player to ever come out of play for the Western Carolina Catamounts.
No question.
Well, yeah, I don't think that's
And,
an
and
argument.
I
we're
mean, if
gonna
you've ever
have.
seen
No.
a catamount, you just whatever that is. I do not know.
It's some sort of beast.
That's what one cat does to another.
Like a cougar.
That's
Yeah.
when you got two cats in heat and the one cat a catamount.
Oh, that's
Oh,
okay. Hello,
that's what it
hello,
is.
ba-da-bum,
No,
hello.
That's what it is.
Yeah, you always look for a way to end it. Well, you
King-
just found one.
Kings and Sixers, Phantoms key to the game already. You have
You already know
Sixers
my
gonna
key
try
to the game.
get the ball to
They're going to
Embiid.
get it to Embiid early to try to get some bonus in foul trouble. And is old man Harden going to control the pace of the entire game?
Yeah. What's the one thing the Kings? If you're in there with the Kings, you got one thing to tell them. What are you telling them? A key to them being successful tonight.
Make your threes.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Take and make them.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Give us a call, right? Send
Yeah.
us an email. Yeah.
On the Catamount hotline. Yeah.
And subscribe if you haven't.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We will talk to you again on is Thursday. Work for you
Let's
guys?
do Thursday.
Thursday. We'll see you on the old-fashioned 3.
Thank you for joining the Old Fashioned 3 on Stones Radio Networks. To stay updated on the show, like and subscribe on YouTube, and all shows are available for download on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and of course at stonesradionetworks.com. Follow the show and the gents on Twitter at OL, Fashioned, and the number 3, at Phantom Radio 60, and at Whitey Gleason. This has been a production of Stones Radio Networks.